What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to yet another episode of the Fight Maniac podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. Boy, do we have a banger one today, man. We have obviously I'm going to be breaking down, giving you my picks, my predictions, my overall thoughts for UFC 313 this Saturday night. Being headlined by Alex Pereira, however you want to call him. Versus Magomed Ankalaev. So it's a pretty fun fight. I got a lot to talk about there. And then the co-main, obviously, is Justin, the highlight. Gaethje, one of my favorite fighters. You know, everybody's favorite fighters. I mean, the guy is insane. He's everybody's favorite fighter. He was supposed to fight originally Dan Hooker, which, dude, when I saw that fight, I was like, please take my money, UFC, Dana White, take all my money. But unfortunately, Dan Hooker had to pull out because he broke his arm or his wrist or something. So he obviously couldn't compete. So not super last minute replacement, but I would say like a few weeks, definitely not a full training camp. Is Fiziev stepping up for a rematch against Justin Gaethje, which should be fun. I literally just watched the first fight to remember some of the things, and definitely going to break that down as well. So how about you say we get started, man? Before, all I ask is please, if you want to support your boy, all you got to do is leave a like and hit the subscribe button, man. That would help me out tremendously. So thank you guys for doing that. Appreciate you. So yeah, starting right away, man, with the belly of the beast. We have obviously the main event, Alex Pereira, however you want to call him, versus Magomed Ankalaev, who... a lot of people have been talking a lot about, oh, finally Alex is going to face a real wrestler, a guy that can definitely take him down and submit him. Because if you look at his previous fights, especially his last 3 fights at light heavyweight, I don't say four if you count the rematch against Jiri, but I don't say 5 because the first one at light heavyweight was against Blachowicz, who Blachowicz is also technically a wrestler. So... you know, but I don't really count that fight because it was a boring fight. But finally, people say, oh, finally he's going to get submitted, blah, blah, blah. They're going to expose his ground game. So Magomed is getting his shot. He's deserved the shot for a while. A lot of people kind of thought that he deserved this shot before Khalil Roundtree, which I kind of agree. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. Maybe he was injured. Maybe he wasn't, in shape or whatever, but I mean, it wasn't like a last minute thing. He had some time to prepare, but anyways, I find it more interesting that he couldn't fight then, but now he's fighting during Ramadan, which, I mean, if you didn't know, it's kind of crazy because obviously he's Muslim, and during Ramadan, they fast. So we're going to see how that's going to work out. Is he going to just, obviously he might not have an issue making weight. Like, I don't know, man. I have to know, like, is he actually fasting 100% for Ramadan? Like, he has to have some sort of, exemption, right, from his higher power. He has to have some sort of excuse, like, all right, I know you're fighting Alex Pereira. Definitely, you don't want to miss any meals, right, when you're fighting that guy. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, will that play a factor on him, on his physique? Is he going to be weaker? Is he going to be a little bit out of touch because he is fasting? Or maybe, being literally hungry. A lot of people talk about when you're fighting, you got to be hungry, but like he's going to be literally hungry. Is that going to help him? It's going to help him tap into his, primal instinct and potentially win the fight that way. Who knows? But I will tell you that. Ankalaev is not just a wrestler like people are going to tell you, right? He has phenomenal striking. He has knockout power. He has knocked out a bunch of his opponents. Johnny Walker, most recently, he had a draw against Johnny Walker. No, not a draw. A draw was against Blachowicz, right? Yes, the draw was against John Blachowicz, and then he had a no contest against Johnny Walker because of an eye poke. And then he knocked out Johnny Walker. And let me remind you, before that, he also knocked out Anthony Smith. And look, if you just go back on his record, he has a bunch of KOs. So, like, this is not a guy that's primarily as just a wrestler, and he's proven that over and over. So a lot of people find it crazy when he says, "Oh, I'm gonna stand there and strike with Alex." A lot of people say, "What? Are you fucking crazy, dude?" I mean, the guy has hella KOs in his record. He has a bunch. I don't know exactly how many, but he has a fuck ton of KOs in his record, going back all the way to before UFC. He has a ton of KOs, a ton of submissions as well. Not as many, but he has some submissions. So I mean, he could definitely end the fight in multiple ways. So more than Alex, I would say. In this case, Magomed Ankalaev has, I think, more tools that to end the fight than Alex, right? Because obviously you mix in the grappling and the ground game. Now, Alex, obviously we all know, has phenomenal fucking striking, probably the best striking in the UFC right now. And before I talk about his skills a little bit, I just want to say, like, I mean, there's just really nothing to say about Alex at this point. He's a guy that ever since he moved up to light heavyweight, he's been just dominating his opponents. He has last minute replacement, saving one of the biggest cards in UFC history, UFC 300, coming in and just beating guys in round 1, round 2, making it look easy. And then go on into also dominating guys for more rounds. Guys like Khalil Roundtree, that, it kind of shows that he's kind of ready. He's kind of ready for all. Usually when a guy has one KO power, knockout power like that, they rely too much on it. And their cardio is not as good. They're by the round 4 and 5, they're getting gassed out. And yeah, we still haven't seen that from Alex. We haven't seen if he's able to hang in those rounds. But for what we saw in the Khalil Roundtree, it was starting to look that way. Like, he doesn't slow down. And I know it's not a light heavyweight, but if you go back and watch his Izzy fight, I mean, he beat Izzy, was it the 4th or the 5th round the first time? So, I mean, he definitely is a guy that he picks and chooses whenever he wants to explode and go for the knockout. He waits for a window. He doesn't just headhunt. That's what I like. A lot of people that have, again, that gift of that 1 KO power, a lot of them just headhunt and they throw caution to the wind and they don't care about their defense. That's not the case with Alex. Alex will be calculated and he's going to choose the exact moment when you're opening up to catch you with that left hook, which is obviously his most lethal gun, right? Now, you can also look at it in kind of like a negative way. Like I just said, Magomed has, I think, more tools to win. If you go back and look at Magomed's fights, he lands some really clean combinations. He's explosive and he's fast. So, he could definitely land something on Alex. And Alex doesn't have the best defense either. He will eat a few punches in order to get in your distance. And usually that works out for him. But, if you go back and watch his Izzy fight, obviously that doesn't work because he was piecing up Izzy and then Izzy came back and knocked him out, right, the second fight. So it's a dangerous game to be played right there on that 50-50 exchange. Alex definitely has to be careful with that. But Magomed has more tools to win because he has that. He has good striking. He doesn't have just average or decent striking. He's a good striker. You don't have as many KOs as he has in his record without being a decent striker. And he also has, obviously, the submission opportunities in the wrestling and that Alex doesn't have. Now, the one thing that people are sleeping on Alex is his takedown defense. I think his takedown defense is really underrated. I think people will be surprised if Magomed shoots for a takedown and Alex stuffs it. I will not be surprised, but I think a lot of people will be surprised because they're going to say, what? Alex? The guy from the kickboxer? You know what I mean? Like, he has takedown defense? Yeah, I think he does. I think if you look at just his footage, if you follow him on social media, like, he's constantly drilling and training takedown defense with none other than Glover Teixeira, a fucking animal grappler and obviously a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And he's been with him for years now. So that shit rubs off, bro. And even if they uploaded a video a few weeks ago of them just kind of fucking around. They were on the snow wrestling and they're just kind of fucking around. But you can tell, like, even though they're just messing around, they're their competitiveness comes through, and you can tell Glover, you can tell he's kind of trying to get serious and try to take him down. And Alex has good defense. Mind you, doesn't count. They were on the snow. They were shirtless and barefoot, so it doesn't really matter. But still, I mean, that's primal right there. If you can take a man out outside in your bare feet, you can do it in an octagon, you know, with air conditioner. So I think that's great. So don't sleep on Alex's takedown defense, bro. That's all I'm saying. He will stuff a takedown and force Magomed to play his striking game, which again, Magomed has good striking. So I think it's going to be a great fight overall. As far as my official prediction goes, I mean, you cannot really bet against Alex. I would be stupid to put any kind of money against Alex. I mean, I'm still gonna, you know, put some money on Magomed because I'm a fucking deviant. I usually put money both ways, and not to the point where like I just break even, but to the point where like, okay, I would bet a risky chance for the underdog. So I'm maybe gonna bet like Ankalaev, I don't know, by KO or by submission, which I know is probably a bigger payout, right, than Alex by KO. As far as the odds go, they're pretty even right now. It's minus 115, minus 105. So they're pretty even on the money line. So yeah, I'll probably put some money on Alex winning overall money line, but then put some money on Ankalaev finishing Alex, because that's where the money is. Then that's how I'm not telling you how to bet, but that's kind of how I make my bets as well. And I don't bet a lot of money either, of course. I'm not over here fucking gambling out of control. But I think that's the way I would see it happening is I want Ankalaev to win by decision, just to kind of throw a wrench in the whole, you know, simulation, and just to fuck with the storyline, you know, because why not? And obviously make some money. But if you look at it in the realistic way, and what most likely will happen, and what the odds are favoring, is obviously Alex Pereira, either by KO, or I wouldn't be surprised if this fight goes the distance. Like I said, we haven't still seen Alex in a long drawn out fight at light heavyweight for a championship fight. You know what I mean? So it would be interesting to see how he can handle that. That's going to help him in everybody's eyes, because if he does that, if he dominates Ankalaev for 5 rounds, there's no excuse that he really is the best light heavyweight in the world right now, and then there's no one left for him, and that he should move up at heavyweight. So either way, if he wins no matter what, that's his next move. No matter how he wins, if he wins first round KO, or if he dominates Ankalaev for 5 rounds, it's moved to heavyweight. That's the only path. The only way he doesn't move up is if Magomed dominates him, let's say for 4 rounds, and then Alex just kind of gets lucky and catches him with something. That's when I would say, you know, maybe a rematch then might be a better option. But if Alex just wins flawlessly, there's no argument, there's no doubt about it, there's no arguing against it. He has to move up to heavyweight to fight either John Jones or Tom Aspinall. So, I mean, that's a whole nother thing right there that we can talk about here. I've broken it down before, but I'll talk about it for a little bit. Obviously, it's a smart move from the sense that it's never been accomplished before. 3 divisions conquered by one person. It's never been done before. So because of that, I'm also kind of rooting for Alex. I'm kind of hoping he gets the win so that he can do that. Because if he loses this fight, that kind of all goes away, or not permanently, but it goes away right now. Because then he has to come back and rematch and fight again, Magomed, fight him again. And then if he gets that dub, then he can move up, right? Because who knows? Who knows? I mean, Magomed could come out and ragdoll Alex for 5 rounds. Honestly, I don't know. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does that. Again, the guy is a phenomenal, not only striker, but a phenomenal wrestler and grappler. So he has the tools to win. Now, as far as what does he have to do to get the win, listen, Ankalaev, listen to me. Look at me in the eyes. This is what you have to do, okay? Pay attention. Take notes. I'm a pro trainer. I'm kidding. But the way I see it is you have to You have to beat Alex in some of the exchanges. You have to jab him. You have to make sure, obviously, you're not getting caught with anything, right? So, easier said than done. You have to make sure that you are just landing more than him, but then also securing takedowns every single round. Play his stand-up game. Play his stand-up game half a round, and then for the second half of each round, try to take him down. And if Magomed is able to kind of shut Alex's game down on the striking, and Alex is not able to catch him with anything, and they're just kind of exchanging. But then if Magomed gets a takedown or two takedowns, again, preferably one takedown per round minimum, right? Obviously, that might not be doable, but at least one or two takedowns throughout the fight, more than Alex. I highly doubt Alex is going to shoot and initiate a takedown. I could see a scenario where they scramble, where maybe Magomed shoots and Alex has defense, takedown defense, and then they scramble, and then Alex maybe ends up on top, and then he can capitalize from the ground and pound. I can see that happening as well, but I don't see Alex initiating a takedown. But I do see Magomed obviously going for takedowns, and again, that's what he has to do. You have to swallow your pride. He comes out and he says, "I'm gonna knock out Alex." All right, that's good. All right, we like the attitude, but you have to mix it up. That's the only way you're gonna win. If you look at these fighters, for example, like Sean O'Malley, that are primarily strikers, how do people beat them at the end, right? Because they're gonna lose no matter what. If you're primarily a striker, you're gonna meet the guy that's gonna stuff your striking game, and then he's gonna take you down and either submit you or ragdoll you for 5 rounds. You're gonna meet that guy, right? For Sean O'Malley, that was Marav. Shut down his striking game, took him down at will, and ragdoll him for 5 rounds, right? That is gonna happen eventually. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When you have primarily strikers, look at Izzy happening with John Bohovic, right? There's plenty of examples, obviously. So Alex is gonna. Will Magomed be the one to do that? Will he be finally the one to do that against Alex? He could. Again, he could if he follows my advice. He has to. If you look at, what I was getting to the point. Sometimes I get lost, but what I was getting to the point is that if you look at how those strikers eventually lose, is because their opponent does that perfectly, right? They mix the takedowns with good striking, not playing the striker's game. Don't get into their range. Don't wind up. Don't throw loopy punches. Don't headhunt. Because what Alex is, what Sean O'Malley is, what Izzy, a lot of these guys, what they are is phenomenal counter strikers. That's how they catch you a lot. Is they lure you in, they make you throw a loopy punch that you think is gonna land, and boom, you're on the floor, right? That's what they do. I mean, look at Sean against Sterling. That's kind of the way he did it, flawlessly, perfectly, and won the belt because of that. But then you meet your maker, right? You meet your the guy that's gonna actually give you trouble in the feet, and then you say, "Oh shit, this guy is giving me trouble not only on the feet, but he's also taking him down. I can't knock him out the way I'm used to knocking out guys. Not only that, but I'm also getting taken down in ragdoll." So that's the perfect recipe for losing a fight. So I could see Magomed doing something like that. But again, he has to let go of his ego, and he has to be able to say, all right, even if I don't knock Alex out, even if people say, "Oh, it's a boring fight," who cares? Okay, like, yeah, if you're trying to knock him out, that's great, but only try to knock him out for half a round, right? And if you see that there's no windows, there's no opportunity, shoot for a goddamn takedown. Like, don't let the ego. If Magomed doesn't, if this fight either goes a distance or Magomed loses, and he doesn't shoot for a single takedown, I lost hope. I really lost hope on him, because he seems smarter than that. Like, these Dagestani guys, they seem like they don't have ego. They seem like they would go the safest route towards victory, right? Like we've seen Khabib do, Islam do. They play it safe. They take guys down. They hold them down for 5 rounds, and they win the fight. It sounds bad to say it, as for the casuals, but that's what he has to do. He has to make this a little bit of a boring fight. Unless he can knock him out. If he can knock out Pereira, then by all means, but easier said than done. We know Pereira can get knocked out, by Izzy. I don't know if Magomed has the same power as Izzy. Obviously, he's heavier, so he might. But again, Magomed lands clean shots, bro. Magomed lands very clean shots, so I wouldn't be surprised. So I'll shut up about this fight already, but my official prediction is Alex Pereira by second round KO. I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Pereira wins by decision, and I also wouldn't be surprised if Magomed Ankalaev wins by decision or by KO. So, it sounds kind of fucked up to say, like, oh, yeah, you're basically saying every possible outcome. Well, that's how this fight could play out. I just see it that way. I'm not going to say the same thing about all fights, but for a lot of fights, I do see this happening. But again, I'm going to stick to my one prediction and say Alex Pereira will knock out Magomed Ankalaev in the second round. So that's it for that, man. Overall, I'm super excited for this one. Obviously, it's one that has been on the works for a while. I don't know why exactly it didn't work out before, but I'm glad we're getting it now. A little weird that it's happening during Ramadan. You're gonna wonder if that is an advantage to Alex, right? If Magomed will be depleted. So the only way to find out is to watch the fight and see exactly what Magomed does. If he looks depleted, if he looks tired, if he might not struggle to make weight. So that's a good thing that he already might be lean and not as heavy coming into fight week. So he might not struggle to make weight, but overall tough, man. If he's actually fasting, it's going to be tough. So yeah, that's it for that fight, guys. So obviously next we have the co-main event. Justin the Highlight Gaethje versus Rafael. What's his nickname? Rafael Ataman. Rafael Ataman. I don't know what that is. Sorry. Rafael Ataman Fiziev. A rematch. A last minute, couple weeks replacement. Because Fiziev came in. Now, I found it interesting that there was a little exchange on Twitter with Justin Gaethje. He tweeted out that a bunch of people were offered this fight. Charles, Arman. He was the first two that he mentioned. They declined. He said Dustin Poirier and one more guy. I forget. I think not Chandler because he's fighting, but somebody else. I forget. And not he did it in the most respectful way where he wasn't really throwing shit at them like, oh, you pussies, turn down the fight. No, he kind of understood it, especially for people like Charles and Arman, who they are. I don't know. I would probably consider Charles the number one contender, and then Arman after him. So it doesn't make sense. And then Arman would be the number one contender, but because he dropped out of that fight in such a pussy way, I dropped him below Charles. So whatever. Fight me. But both of them, understandably, right, that they didn't accept the fight because, okay, well, we're number one. Charles already beat Justin, so it didn't really make a lot of sense. Arman is, out enjoying daddy's money and being a pussy, so that also makes sense. So yeah, I found it interesting that Fiziev was ultimately the UFC's choice. Very, very sad for that Dan Hooker, man. That Dan Hooker fight was going to be an amazing fight, a bloody fight for the casuals, for the people that just want to see blood and guts and fucking eyebrows split open and people getting knocked the fuck out. That was the fight to watch. That was the fight to make for people like that. But hey, like I said, I just rewatched their first fight. Obviously, this is a rematch, and it's not bad. So I kind of forgot how it went, so I'm glad I rewatched it. So Fiziev definitely won the first round, and then Gaethje came out with the second and the third, just showing a little bit more experience and a little bit more patience. Again, taking the first round to kind of just like download the data, and then second and third round he goes to work, right? And he shuts down Fiziev's game. Fiziev, however, he had some great moments in the fight too. I mean, that fight, it was 1-2 going into the third round. So Fiziev also had moments in the third round. So, halfway to the third round, he's like, well, this fight is anybody's, really. But I think what secured the fight for Justin, and again, it goes back to what I was saying literally 5 minutes ago, talking about Ankalaev. What secured that decision win for Justin was that at the third round, towards the end of the round, he said, all right, this guy's kind of my level on the striking. We're going back and forth. I could lose this, or this could go to a draw or a split. Let me shoot for a takedown. And he shot for a takedown, ended the fight on top. And again, I think that's what got him the win, right? So that's exactly what you have to do at this level of fighting. You can't just rely on purely striking, on purely knocking a guy out. If it's a third round, you're not as fresh anymore. You're probably not throwing as hard anymore. So it's hard to knock somebody out in the last couple of rounds. By the way, I'm assuming this is a 5-round fight. I wish. I hope. If not, then my prediction is will be off. But I'm assuming this is a 5-round fight, right? Because last time they fought, it wasn't a co-main, right? Last time they fought, it was. Oh, interesting. So the last time they fought, it was the co-main. It was a co-main. I didn't know it was a co-main, but it was also a 3-round fight. Now, because this is kind of like a last-minute replacement, I'm assuming it's also a 3-round fight, which kind of sucks. I was hoping this was a 5-round fight. Maybe the Dan Hooker one was a 5-round fight because they had full camps, but this one being a last-minute replacement, I'm assuming it's going to be just a 3-rounder, which sucks. Yeah, it sucks. I want a 5-round because I think that would also benefit Gaethje, right? Having the more experience in the championship fights and whatnot, being the more experienced fighter here. But yeah, I mean, as far as this fight goes, I mean, both of these guys are going to be at it from the beginning, from round one. It's going to be interesting to see what Fiziev does to adjust because he knows what Justin's plan was last fight. All right, he said, all right, well, your plan was the first round you kind of gave it to me, and then your second round you went to work. He mixed the leg kicks really well. It's going to be interesting to see how Fiziev, if he checks those, if he defends those in any way. And I think overall just staying more busy, just not letting Gaethje close the distance, not letting Gaethje put him on his back heel and make him go backwards. I think Fiziev has to apply the pressure. I think that's the only way you shut down someone like Justin Gaethje is you apply the pressure and then you become him, what Justin does to you. You let Justin be on his back heel, you apply pressure, you stay more busy, you land more per round, but also you mix up the takedowns, you mix up the leg kicks, which that's Gaethje's game, man. I mean, Gaethje has those leg kicks on lock, and Gaethje also has the takedown. And also, so this is going to be a pretty evenly matched. I mean, we saw that in the first fight, obviously. So it's going to be interesting to see what Fiziev does in order to adjust and be able to shut down Gaethje's game. I also wouldn't be mad if Fiziev wins this fight and now they can be 1-1 and potentially set up a rematch in the future. But if Gaethje wins this fight, I mean, that seals it, that nobody's going to want to see a rematch ever again. That complicates Fiziev for, continuing to a path of title challenging. So, obviously that will drop him back in the queue. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Fiziev comes out and makes some adjustments. And like I said, just stays more busy than Justin, gets more takedowns than Justin, checks kicks, obviously, because Justin is going to attack the legs and is going to hurt you with those. He's going to do that early. He's going to do that first round. First round, I guarantee you the first strike that Gaethje throws is going to be a leg kick. And I wouldn't be surprised if Fiziev, again, if he learns from his early mistakes, he can check those or defend those somehow and not let those affect them the way, because if you saw the first fight, bro, the first round, first leg kick Gaethje threw, I mean, it nearly spun Fiziev out of place. I mean, it was wild. Justin has some amazing fucking leg kicks, and they're so technical and they're so hard. And he will do some fucking damage, and that plays a factor. A lot of people don't realize, man, that plays a factor. You're not really trying to just injure the foot for that one strike. You're planting a seed, because if you land a few of those early, round 2, round 3, Fiziev is gonna not be able to put weight on his leg, on his leading leg or on his supporting leg. He won't be able to. So that's going to obviously play a factor into his striking and his defense, and he might be more prone to a knockout. So Gaethje's smart that way. I also see this fight playing out in a way where like Gaethje tries to go for a KO or a finish, because obviously last time out he couldn't finish him, and Gaethje is one of those guys that he always promises violence. He always wants to get the finish, the KO, and he's a guy that unfortunately he also gets hit. He doesn't mind taking a couple of blows in order to close that distance, and in order to be able to get to you. He doesn't mind if he eats a few a few punches, and he has a chin. I mean, he has a fucking chin, that's for sure. But that chin has to go out one day, right? One way or another, the chin goes out. So it makes you wonder, like, okay, is Fiziev gonna be the what guy, right? I mean, we saw Fiziev catching Justin with some nice things. He catch him with a knee in the first fight, and Justin just didn't go away, man. Just didn't go away. So I was, as a betting man, I'm definitely not gonna put any money on Fiziev by KO. But again, that's how you make money. That's how you make money, man, by taking risks. But I'm not gonna put any money on that just because the odds are so little. Again, we saw Justin getting caught with some things. So either Fiziev doesn't have the pure power needed to knock out Justin, or Justin is just a fucking, made out of steel. Obviously, Justin is a savage, is an animal. But you can't rely that much on, oh, this guy has a good jaw, so you're gonna take punches, take fucking 3-4 combination punches. Like, no, you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna rely on your jaw, obviously, because you will get knocked down or KO'd, right? Eventually, it will happen. Whether it's this fight, whether it's on the next fight, it will happen. That's a horrible game plan to have if you're just relying on your chin. So Gaethje has to learn that, and Gaethje has to learn that defense. And he's better at it, but I think he's one of those guys that he feels the first punch, crack his face. He's like, oh, all right, let's go. Like, he's one of those guys that he just smells the blood, he feels the violence, and he throws his game plan out the fucking window. He's a guy that just, defense. What the fuck is defense? Once he has a bloody nose and a broken nose and shit and whatnot. And yeah, Gaethje obviously is coming off a loss. His last time out against Max Holloway. I think he broke his nose earlier in the fight, and then fought the whole 5 rounds with a broken nose, and eventually getting knocked out. Being the negative side of the best knockout of last year, of 2024. I mean, fucking amazing knockout, obviously, by Max Holloway. But yeah, Justin took some time off, which he should have done. That's great. Like, bro, I don't know why there's guys that jump back in right away. Like, I just saw that they announced, or I don't know if it's new, but they announced fucking the guy that just got knocked out, the guy that sucks. Oh, Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill, they just announced him fighting again in a few months. Like, he did the same thing. After he fought Alex, he went and fought again. Or maybe that fight didn't go through because, he's fighting Khalil Roundtree, bro. Like, that is insane to me. The fact that he just got KO'd by jury in January, and now he's fighting Khalil Roundtree, a dangerous striker, on April. So just 3 months. You're going to go and... sorry, I misspoke. So the last time out, he had a fight booked, but I think he didn't go through because he got knocked out by Alex. He booked the fight. I forget against who. It could have been against Khalil too, I forget. But the fight didn't happen for injury reasons. And then he got knocked out by jury, and now what? He's eager to get back in there. Like, for what, bro? You got knocked out, take some months off. Justin took damn near a year off. I mean, that's the way to do it. And if you ask me, especially if you get knocked out, if you're in your 30s, you're no longer... If you're in your 20s, like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? If you're in your 20s, you can probably bounce back way much easy. But he's not in his 20s, bro. So, I mean, it's... how old is Jamal Hill? He's 33, so he's not that old. But he's also not that young. You know what I mean? So he just has to learn to stay away for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, going back to Justin Gaethje, he did the right thing by taking time off after a horrible knockout. Let his body heal. Let his brain heal. And now he's back. So you can expect a good version of Gaethje. He's not a Gaethje that just got knocked out. He's not a Gaethje that, he based on how this camp went, I mean, he had way more time than Fiziev to prepare, so that should be an advantage. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna stop ranting on this one, and I'm just gonna go with official prediction. Justin Gaethje. I want to say by decision. It's gonna be a little bit of you know what? Fuck that. I'm gonna say Justin Gaethje by second or third round KO, because that's what the people want to see. That's what the highlight is gonna give us. KO and then do a backflip off the cage. How awesome would it be, by the way? I was thinking about this the other day. How awesome would it be if he does a backflip, but not in the octagon? If he, I know this is stupid, but what if he wins? He gets on top and he flips, and he does a backflip onto the crowd and crowd surface. I know that's fucking stupid. I'm sorry. I just thought it'd be fucking amazing and entertaining, but I guess just fuck me, right? Anyways, so that's a great fight, obviously co-main. Then we have the fight before that, which is also a lightweight fight. A lot of lightweights here today. We have Jalen Turner, who's a phenomenal fighter, by the way. I'm super excited to watch him fight against Ignacio Bahamondes. A guy from Chile, right? Yeah, he's from Chile. This should be a good fight because Ignacio has won 4 out of his last fight, 2 KOs in a row. He knocked out Torres and then he knocked out Siago. So, the one knock that I have on Bahamondes is that he doesn't really have any big name wins yet on his career. Ever since he joined the UFC, he's been in the UFC since 2020. He joined at Contender Series, got a KO there, got signed, obviously. Then lost a split, then has 3 wins in a row after that. Loses a split, a decision again, a unanimous this time against Ludovic Klein. Sorry, some of these names are just fucking hard. And then don't get him twisted. He has 2 KOs in a row now. 2 KOs in a row. So now he's facing equally, if not probably better, striker in Jalen Turner. I mean, Jalen has been in there with some bigger names, slightly worse record. I think because of that, because he just kind of got thrown into some of the wolves. He has some big name fights, Dan Hooker, Moicano, Gamrod. He's had a few higher profile fights than Bahamondes, but because of that, obviously it's more risk, so you risk losing. So he's lost 3 out of his last 5. So it looks bad on paper, but Jalen is a phenomenal fighter. Also, what kind of fucked him out, I forget which one it was. It was either in the Moicano fight or the Hooker fight, where he thought he won. He thought he had a walkout KO. I think it was against Moicano. He had a walkout. He had a KO or a knockdown. He thought he won. He thought Moicano was knocked out. And he kind of walked away trying to get the walkout KO, but the ref was like, hey, man, you're not done. Like, this guy's not knocked out, So that kind of fucked him, because then he lost the fight after that. He also got knocked out. So that sucks. I remember that. That was like, oh, my God, that has to sting, bro. And that has to be kind of embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, some of these guys in the UFC, they're super cool and they're fresh, but when they do a big mistake like that, it's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing, I would have to imagine, But yeah, I mean, Jalen is a phenomenal striker. He's also built great for the lightweight division because he's tall and skinny. Jalen Turner is, I'm talking physical, just physically. He is to the lightweight division what John Jones was to the light heavyweight division. Tall, skinny, lengthy dude. I'm not saying he's the same skill. I'm not comparing them in that aspect. I'm just saying physically. Compared to the rest of the division, John Jones was a skinny, tall, lengthy dude. When a lot of guys at light heavyweight were kind of stocky and shorter and heavier, John was the skinny dude. And this is what Jalen is to the lightweight. He's tall. He is skinny. He's got long arms, long legs, which plays to his advantage. He can keep you at a distance. He reminds me a little bit. Don't kind of take this like, oh, he's just like him. No, but he reminds me a little bit of MVP, kind of the way that point style fighting, you know what I mean? But Jalen, I would say he's a little bit more well-rounded overall. He has, well, his wrestling is not, that great either. He has a few submission wins. He submitted Brad Riddle, and he has a few other submission under his belt. But primarily a striker. I mean, don't get it wrong. He's a striker. So this should be also a fun striking match. Man, the co-main and this one should be fun striking matches. So for this one, I got to give it to Jalen Turner. Just even though he has a couple of losses recently, I think this is better for him to say, okay, I cannot afford to lose now 4 out of my last 5. I cannot afford that. So he's going to come out guns a-blazing. He's going to want to get the dub. He's going to come out hungry. And just overall, he has more experience. He's been in there with some bigger name guys. He's fought under some massive cards. And he's got more experience behind on this. That definitely plays a factor. That 100% plays a factor. Especially when you're in a big, main card, a lot of eyeballs that could... Sometimes a lot of guys could crack under that pressure. Not saying that Ignacio Bahamondes will, but I'm just saying that could play a factor into his performance. So, very interested to see how that plays out. But I will say Jalen Turner probably. I want to say by decision. Hey, I gave you 2 knockouts. Okay, there's the main event. I predicted a knockout, and then the co-main predicted a knockout. So for this one, give me a break. Also, the UFC doesn't have insane knockout rates, you know what I mean? But for this one, I think I'm predicting Jalen Turner by decision. We have a few other fun fights here. We have Amanda Lemos. That one I don't care so much about. We have King Green versus Ruffy. Who is this guy? Let's see. Mauricio Ruffy. Oh, yeah, he just fought not too long ago, I think, right? Yeah, in November. So back in action kind of quickly. That's what I like to see. Again, some of these younger guys, they should do that. Man, he didn't get KO'd. He won via decision. But, you're young, you're active, your body heals quicker. Get back in there. You know what I mean? It's not that bad. Undefeated guy as far as his last couple of fights. He's only been in the UFC since October of 23. Not last year, October 23, he joined in during Dana White Contender Series. Fuck, dude. I mean, looking at his fucking record, I'm going to have to go with him for this, bro, because he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 KOs in a fucking row, dude. That is fucking insane. 10 KOs in a row. Mind you, he lost one by KO in there. In the mix, there's 1 loss by KO. But, I mean, holy shit, bro. I mean, without counting that, it's 10 wins in a row by KO. That's fucking insane. And that's an insane record to have in MMA. Fucking insane. And then you get to the UFC, and you get 2 KOs in a row, and then a win by decision. That's not bad. I mean, that's not a bad record at all. So I'm excited for this dude. How old is he? He is 28, still young. I like to see that. And, on the other hand, you have King, formerly Bobby, changed his name to King, who is a little bit older. How old is Bobby? And I know he has obviously a couple of losses in his record recently. He is 38. Holy shit. He is 10 years older than Ruffy. So, yeah. This one, I think, is pretty easy to predict. You know what I mean? Even though King has really good striking and really good boxing, he has some of that Mayweather shoulder roll defense, and it works for him. I don't think we've ever seen a guy do it in MMA, but he does it, and it works for him. But obviously, we saw he's kind of lacking in the grappling department. Mind you, he went against someone like Patty, who's a fucking phenomenal grappler. Someone like fucking current champ, Islam, who's obviously amazing at grappling. So you can't really knock on him for that, but he is lacking in the in the wrestling department and the grappling department. He is primarily a striker. He tries to keep it on the feet. And yeah, that's usually his game. He's really also not that much of a finisher. I mean, compared to Ruffy, there's no way. There's no way. His record is not even as good. I mean, he has a bunch of losses. Mind you, it's not a bad thing. He's also been in the UFC for way longer. Like I said, we've already established this. He's 10 years older than Ruffy. So this one's a no-brainer. I'm going to go with Ruffy on this one. I mean, even though I'm a huge fan of King Bobby, I'm a huge fan. I was really rooting for him when he fought Islam, bro. I was like, oh my God, this is the opportunity for somebody to shut down the Daggies, right? And mind you, this was before Islam became champ. Obviously, he wasn't champ back then, but even then, I was like, oh my God. And then, he had a few kind of okay wins against Jim Miller, but, Jim Miller is also super old. Tony Ferguson, obviously, on the other side. So King has showed us repeatedly that when he faces some of these younger, up-and-coming guys, he loses. He's not as explosive as them. He's not as fast as them. He can't compete with the wrestling. And I mean, don't get me wrong, this is actually a really good matchup for him because Ruffy's not a wrestler, right? He's primarily a striker. He will go for the KO. So it will be interesting to see if King can hang with someone younger and more explosive, but primarily just a striker. Because again, he's been there with some killer grapplers, and it's really not fair. It's really not fair to throw in a young, up-and-coming Paddy Pimblett dude, right? A guy that will submit you anywhere. He'll submit you on your feet. He doesn't even have to take you down. He'll submit you while you're standing. Like, that's insane. So it's almost unfair, against King. But against Ruffy, it's a great matchup. Again, some of these great fights are made with the skill sets and stylistically, matchups are sometimes more important than on paper. So on paper, Ruffy has this in the bags, and that's going to be my official prediction. It's going to be Ruffy by KO. I would like to see that record extend. I want to see that definitely. I'm a fan now of Ruffy. But I also see how King can do really well against striker. Ruffy is going to play King's game, and who knows? Maybe King Green can surprise a few people. And unfortunately, if he does win, because what's their right now? Are they currently both ranked, right? I don't think they're ranked. I don't think King Green is ranked. Not a lightweight, which this fight is at. Yes, it's not lightweight. Yeah, I don't think King Green is ranked. Neither is Ruffy. So, unfortunately, if King Green wins this fight, my point that I was getting to was that he's going to be seen as just this sort of gatekeeper. He can't really hang with the top 5, top 6 of that division, especially now that you add Max Holloway to the mix in that division, Ilia Topuria to that division. Like, now, we knew this before. The lightweight division was the most deep and fucking ferocious and entertaining division in the UFC. We knew that before. Now that you add these 2 other guys into the mix, and now that you add Paddy into the mix as well, now getting in there with the ranked, like, this division is heating the fuck up. And I wouldn't be surprised if this belt changes a few hands. That's a little controversial thing to say, obviously, with Islam being such a dominant champ. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these guys get in there and do some work. You know what I mean? I want to see that. I don't want to see Islam dominate everybody for 10 years. That would be awful. That would be god awful. But I see this fight as a potential, the King Green versus Ruffy fight. I see this one to be also a potential of like getting into that ranked top 15 guys. So for Bobby, it'll be obviously getting back in there because he was already ranked, and then he stepped out. He obviously fell off a little bit. And Ruffy, who's just coming up, obviously is going to be great if he does get past King Green easily. In my opinion, he will be able to hang with some of the top 5, top 7 guys of that division. Because don't get me wrong, even though King Green is not ranked, he does have some better striking than some of the, some of these other guys, like Ron Dawson, like Benoit Saint-Denis. Like, I think he still has some better striking than some of these guys that are lower in the weight class, in the ranked, right? Some of the number 13, 14, 15, like he has better striking than some of those guys, I would imagine. So if Ruffy gets past him rather easily, we know that he deserves a spot in the top of, not in the top, sorry, but in the bottom of the rankings at lightweight. So maybe even a top 15. It's going to depend too, how Jalen Turner does, because Jalen Turner is ranked 13 right now. So that should be interesting. Let's see, Bahamondes is not ranked, right? I was going to see if he's ranked. He's not ranked. So, it's also kind of tough. Sometimes I see these matchups and I say, well, did you really need to take this fight? If you're in the top 13, yeah, I guess someone like Jalen Turner, the answer is yes. But I was going to say, like, if you're Jalen Turner, if you're ranked 13, do you really need to take a fight going backwards? Why not just wait till, number 10 guy becomes available, number 9 guy becomes available, right? Well, the answer is because he's coming off of a few losses. So that's why, not in a row, not back-to-back, which is great. If there were back-to-back losses, then yeah, obviously fucking go back. But he's lost 3 out of his last 5 is what I'm saying. So, but yeah, interesting there. So my official prediction for this one, I know I kind of jumped back, but it's going to be Ruffy is going to be my official prediction against Bobby by KO, because I want to see that KO record extend, man. Come on, keep it going, keep it going. So shout out. And then in the prelims, we have a few fun fights too. We have, to close out the prelims, we have Curtis Blades versus this Russian folk who his first name is Rizvan Kuniev, who is pretty much debuting in the UFC. So, yeah, he had a KO win at Dana White's Contender Series in August of last year. Before that, he has a few KO wins, which is good to see in his record. 2 KOs in a row. So he fought at Dana White's. Okay, so sorry. So he fought at Dana White's in September of 2021 and won by KO, but didn't get signed, I'm assuming, because his fight after that was at Eagle FC. And then after that, he fought at PFL. And after that, he fought again at Dana White Contender Series. So even though he won the contender fight by KO, he didn't get signed. So whatever, that was like 4 years ago, so I'm not going to go back and see what happened. But basically making his UFC debut, because he, other than 2 Contender Series, he hasn't fought in the UFC. And this is a terrible matchup for him. If I'm being brutally honest, this is a terrible matchup for him, because he's going against well-seasoned, well-experienced veteran in Curtis Blades. Obviously also a former not title challenger, but a former interim title challenger, because, the whole interim thing there with Tom Aspinall is weird as fuck. But, it counts for something, right? To be a former interim title challenger, that has to count for something, right? So he's that, and he's also been at that division forever. Been in the UFC since fucking 2016. Has a bunch of KO wins, a bunch of wins in a row. He had an interesting career, because I'm looking at his record right now. Like, he's had a bunch where he goes 3 wins in a row, 4 wins in a row, and then loses. And then goes again 3, 4 in a row, and then loses. So, and then he lost. Obviously, his last one was against Tom Aspinall. But before that, he had a KO win against Jelton Almeida. So, still can hang. So, I think, in my opinion, this is a no-brainer. Unless fucking Kuniev is some sort of God-given, talented fucking striker dude, I don't think he's going to beat a seasoned, experienced Curtis Blades and a well-rounded fighter as Curtis Blades, who literally has great striking and also great wrestling. So I don't know. Kuniev could have an amazing, skill set. We just haven't seen it. At least I haven't seen it. I didn't watch the contender fights. They didn't want contender series fights for him. But just by looking at his record and just the fact that this is his UFC debut, I'm not obviously banking a lot on him. I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket. Absolutely not. UFC debut, main event of the prelims, the main fight on the prelims, and going against. Why are you? Oh my God! Like, this just shows that the UFC's heavyweight division has nobody. It just makes no sense to me that Curtis Blades is the former interim title challenger. He's ranked number 5 in the world right now, and he's fighting Kuniev, a guy that is essentially making his UFC debut. Other than 2 Dana White Contender Series appearances, he's essentially making his UFC debut. So that just shows how shallow and not deep the heavyweight division is. Add that to the fact that the title picture, it's a fucking hot mess right now. How are you going to have, for this long, an interim and an actual champion? Like, that makes no sense at all. Now, mind you, to Dana White's credit, he really does want to make the Tom Aspinall versus John Jones fight, and I think we are going to get that fight this year. But that division has just been stuck, man, for such a long time. John Jones coming in didn't really help it at all. And you have guys like this that are essentially making their UFC debut, and it's the number 5 guy. And if let's say he KOs Curtis Blades, which I doubt it'll happen, but let's say he KOs him, he's probably next for a title shot, honestly, because like there's just nobody there to fight. Like, that's just the reality of that division right now. So kind of sucks, but it's also, I guess, kind of good for some of these guys to kind of get skyrocketed because, in any other world, in any other universe, like, Kuniev will never get a title shot that fast. In a UFC, if this is the heavyweight division where you have fucking Stipe still competing, Francis Ngannou still competing, like some of those older guys that are no longer here, not in a chance this fight happens. And not in a chance Kuniev gets a potential title shot right away after 1 or 2 fights in the UFC. Not a chance, right? But he better enjoy the moment and he better take opportunity, because if you do become champ, it doesn't really matter how you became champ. It doesn't really matter if you fought 15 ranked guys or if you fought 1 ranked guy. If you become champ, you're champ. You're there. And you're the best in the world. So it really doesn't really matter that much, but he better capitalize. He better take this opportunity, go out there, beat Curtis Blades, make a statement that you should be next up for the title, call John Jones a pussy, call Tom Aspinall a pussy, do your thing on the mic. And who knows, you might get the next title shot after John Jones and Tom Aspinall. Whatever outcome that, happens, you might get the next title shot. You never know. With the right call out right now, and again, not that many people there at the heavyweight, you will definitely get a title shot, bro. There's just nobody there. So I hope that happens for him. But if I'm being realistic, if I'm being a smart betting man, I'm going to go with Curtis. Again, just the more experienced guy, the more seasoned veteran. And I think that it's a no-brainer for sure. So another good fight that I have here that interests me is Pereira versus Petrosian. I think that is going to be a great fight, potentially fight of the night. I think this one I see, Justin Gaethje versus Fiziev is probably going to be fight of the night. If it was Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker, it was 100% going to be fight of the night. But this is a close second. Bruno Ferreira, versus Armen Petrosian. Both of these guys are super well experienced. Armen is coming out of 2 losses, unfortunately. He has lost 3 out of his last fight. He has some KO, so he has some KO power, but mostly in the UFC, he's done a lot of decisions. He got submitted, unfortunately, and then his last loss was against Shara Bullet Magomedov by KO. So that's interesting. Was this the one that was a double spin, right? I think it was the one where he had a double double elbow, double spin elbow KO, which was fucking awesome. But obviously Petrosyan needing this win desperately, because he's lost, like I said, 2 in a row. And on the other hand, you have Bruno Pereira, who also lost 2 out of his last 5, but has a slightly better record, way more KOs in the UFC and before the UFC. So for this one, I'm going to say Bruno Pereira by KO. I just like looking at his records real quick. I can see Petrosyan, again, he's been knocked out before. He's probably not in a great pool of confidence right now because his last 2 in a row got KO'd the last time out. Pereira is a finisher. He's a knockout artist. So I do see Pereira winning this by KO, which kind of crazy that he's the underdog. So Pereira is the underdog. So I'm going to definitely put a bet in soon because the lines might change. Pereira by KO. I'm definitely going to put that in. So that's my prediction. Pereira by KO. The only other fight that kind of interests me here that is fun is Morano versus Leal. Just because I recognize Morano's name. He has a few fights. He fought D-Rod last time out and lost. He's also coming off 2 losses in a row. Some of these prelim fights are a little dicey. They get, the quality drops significantly after Curtis Blades and some of those guys that are higher in the card. But this should be a good fight otherwise, you know what I mean? Morano, like I said, also a good jiu-jitsu guy. He could potentially catch Leal with the submission, especially because Leal is primarily a striker. Leal, let's see his record. He's coming off of also a loss. So both of these guys coming off of a loss. Morano 2 in a row. Leal just won last time out. Lost by decision. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, they don't have a lot of huge wins under his names, under his belts. Leal essentially has just 1 fight in the UFC. He made his UFC debut, went to Poria, and Holloway fought recently in October. So, other than that, he has a decent record. He has a lot of KOs before the UFC. He was a PFL for a while. He was an LFA. He was a samurai. That's crazy. What are some of these names, bro? Sicario MMA? What the fuck is that? Samurai FC? He fought at Bellator. Some of these organizations are a little wacky, a little sketchy, I'm assuming. But good record overall. I kind of want to give it to Morano. Who's the underdog? Leal is the underdog, but his record is better, honestly. So if you're trying to, sorry, I read that wrong. Sorry, Morano is the underdog. Sorry, Morano is the underdog. Big underdog, plus 475. So that's kind of wild. And so I think I kind of want to go with Leal, just because he is a big favorite. And his record, at least all of his last 5, he looks way better. But I kind of want Morano to get back in the winning column, and I kind of want to make some money. So I want to put some money on a big dog. So my betting side wants to say go with Morano, and I probably will put a little bit of money in Morano, but overall, my decision is Leal. I want to say by KO. Let's go ahead and go with KO. A bunch of KOs this time out, guys. Come on. Over there, all the way from the top to the bottom, we got a bunch of KOs predicted. So hopefully this card delivers, man. It's going to be, on paper, it's a good main event, good co-main event, so I'm excited. And yeah, I'll be here to break it down after the fact. I'll tell you what actually happened, if my hits, if my bets hit or not, if my predictions hit or not, and then I'll let you know what's next for some of the fighters. Obviously for Alex, if he wins, we have a lot to talk about, about potentially moving up and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a lot of big implications in some of these fights, so I'm excited to talk about them afterwards. So don't forget to tune in next week after. Probably Monday I'll be uploading. And yeah, hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and peace.